Good morning, West Coast, and good afternoon, East Coast. That's right. Good morning, West Coast. Good afternoon, East Coast, and hello, friends in between. Welcome, everyone, to our 29th in a series of Denticon webinars all about AMB. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like my connection here. I'm going to pick up my phone. Hold on, guys. Hello? Okay, much better. All righty. Sorry about that. I think my headset was kind of wadding out. So, welcome everybody to our 29th in a series of Denticon webinars all about AMB. My name
Kathleen, we just lost you there. Kathleen, try that headset again. Linda, are you here with us?
I am here with you, ready to talk about AMB, the alternative minimum benefits.
Well, this is Shelley Kassler, and we have Linda Clower here, and she's going to present about AMB. Go ahead and take it away, Linda.
Will do.
Sorry about that time. Don't know, but anyway, hello. Welcome everyone to our 29th in a series of Denticon webinars all about AMB. Yes, my name is Kathleen Lee, Director of Customer Care. Today is Wednesday. We are live, as you can tell, Wednesday, November 28, 2018. I hope it's a great day for you all. Linda, we got that out of the way, huh? Today's topic. Right. That's right. You said always something goes wrong, so it's a good thing. We are live. Today's topic, all about AMB, will be presented by Linda Clower from the customer care team, and maybe you've had the pleasure to speak to Linda during a support call. Linda, by the way, has recommended this topic today since it's one of her favorite Denticon features. So bravo, Linda. Just a little homework here. The webinar format is a 45-minute presentation of the topic, 15 minutes of Q&A. After the webinar, a recording will be sent to you all for replay and review, and it will be posted as well in the help portal for easy reference for any of your team members. So you don't have to take notes, just pay attention, enjoy the show. We'll send you an email and it'll be in the help portal. Also, note, yep, you are all on mute, but you can ask questions in the questions chat section. So you should see a little option there for questions. You can type in your questions free form. Shelley Kassler, head of training, will be monitoring the chat while Linda presents. So thank you, Shelley. But you may want to hold your questions till the end, since we just might address your question and I don't want you to miss the content as it's being covered. We have a total of 50 registrants today, so great turnout for AMB. And if we don't happen to get to your question, by the way, please submit a ticket in the help portal, and we'll reach out to you directly. Awesome sauce. All right, AMB, otherwise known as Alternative Minimum Benefit, is an insurance term that can create pain and suffering in the dental office if one is not keen on understanding what it means, how to deal with this downgrade in order to understand and calculate the patient copayment for the service offered based on the alternative minimum benefit paid. And if that's a mouthful for me to say, try explaining it and proving the math behind the rule to your customer, to your patient. So true that Denticon knows how to calculate this rule with not a lot of setup. So we're going to show you how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. And with a little help from Linda and Shelley, you'll be applying this rule to other downgraded benefits, which in turn will be a great service to your patients, since you'll be upfront about what their copayment actually will be. You can prove the math, so to speak, with Denticon as your tool, and therefore better collect a higher copay, decrease your costs associated with balanced billing, and while also decreasing stress for both you and your patients while increasing your cash flow. Wow, that sounds like a powerful feature, and it sure is. So without further ado, let me get started with a couple of polls. Let's get to know each other so we have a better idea of who is represented here. So yay. So my first poll I'm going to send out to all of you folks is, what is the size of your dental organization? So I've just launched the poll, if you'd be so kind, and click on one of those options there and let us know who you are and the size of the organization that you're coming from. It would be so awesome sauce to kind of get a little bit of that insight, and I promise to share the poll with you. So I'm going to close it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okie dokie. So let me close the poll. Boom. And then let me share with you the results of the poll. So the size of dental organization, wow, 73% are multi-location. So good for you guys, love it. And 27% are single location. So yes, our solo practitioners, and that's what large groups are made up of, solo practices as well. So thank you for that. And then the last poll I'm going to send out to you folks, if you wouldn't mind, is what is your role in the dental organization? That's right. It's all about you. Tell me who you are. So we're just curious. Who's interested in alternative minimum benefits? Is it clinical? And why not? You should know that. And Linda's going to show you the clinical team, why that should be important to you as well. Is it clerical? Is it, of course, insurance billing? And by the way, for those that do insurance billing, you should be taking out your front desk people for cocktails and the clinical people as well to teach them what you've learned about the insurance plans when you find out, ooh, this procedure code was downgraded. So that would be awesome sauce to share that information. So alrighty, I think we're good to go. So thank you everybody for sharing who you are. Let me close the poll and let me share it. Let's see what we have. So 42% are the office managers, of course. You rule the roost there. Thank you, office managers, for all you do. 25% corporate staff, of course, and we're neck and neck. 17% insurance billing and 17% clinical. Good for you guys. That's great to know. Thank you so much for answering those polls. Awesome sauce. All right. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over the presentation to Linda Clower. So like I said, I love AMB, Kathleen. How can we never show this feature in any of our webinars? So Linda, you mentioned it. Now it's all about you. So go for it, Linda. I'm going to make you presenter. There you are, darling. Beautiful.
Awesome.
We can see your screen. Yep. And tell us all about it. Go for it.
Thank you, Kathleen and Shelley, for being here with me today. And thank you, all of you out there, for coming to learn about this awesome feature. Like Kathleen said, I think it's a great tool because there's enough stress at the front desk without having to explain to a patient holding an EOB in their hand, wondering why I have to pay more after you told me, you promised this is all I have to pay. And then they come with their EOB in hand wanting to know what's up with that. So this feature that we're going to look at here will help eliminate some of that additional stress. So we've got our patient Donnie Downgrade here. He's got his insurance plan set up. Let's go ahead and enter those codes just so we can see first how it's going to work. I want to just share with you what it's going to look like when you treatment plan that AMB code. We're going to start by adding just the restorative, the regular one surface posterior composite code, just so we can see what that looks like here. So we'll add that, and you see the fee, the estimated insurance portion, which we know is not accurate because they're not going to pay for that because it's a downgraded procedure. So then we're going to add the alternate code, D2391A, and let's see how that works. So finally, what I want to show you is after we've added that alternate code, we're going to look at the code that is being inserted there, the amalgam one surface. If you notice right here, the estimated insurance portion for the amalgam one surface and the posterior composite one surface is the same, because the insurance company has said we're only going to pay up to the amalgam coverage, the amalgam fee for that posterior composite filling. So then you get right here a more accurate estimate of what that patient is going to have to come out of pocket for, which is going to save a lot of hassle later, because if you see here, if you had just entered that D2391, the estimated patient portion is $27.80 versus the actual $69.40, because they aren't going to cover the difference between the two. Now, I think most offices are going to get the most use out of the alternate codes for the posterior composites. That was my experience anyway when I worked in an office. However, we do know that some plans, they downgrade for other procedures. One in particular I remember is that they did not always pay for the high noble metal crowns when those were treatment planned. Some plans will say, we'll pay for a crown, but we're not paying for that crown. So what you'll want to do is set up an alternate code the same way you do with the composite fillings. So you can see here that on these posterior teeth, the insurance company has said we're only going to cover a metal crown. So that's what I have input as our alternate fee, alternate code for the crown with D2750A. Now, here comes the fun part, the setup of these procedure codes. If you notice here, the D2750A looks just like the D2750. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to setup and down to procedure codes and over to procedure codes again. And just like you would with any other code that you add, maybe your office has added some unique codes just for your use, you would do the same exact thing, same process. So here I have D2750, and this is what it looks like in the setup. Now, one thing you might want to do to make it a little bit easier for you when you're going through the setup process, instead of having to enter and guess and come back and check later, you could go ahead and use your snipping tool, especially if you have Windows 10, you have this snipping tool. I've added it to my desktop because I use it so much. You could just snip that right there, save it, and go back and check against this setup just to make sure you have everything entered the way you want to. So let's go ahead and add that code. We're going to add the crown. Now, forgive me if mine doesn't read exactly like my previous code, but we're going to add the description here. And remember in Denticon, when you see those red asterisks, that means you can't not enter something right there. So we're going to add, it's going to be a crown, high noble, and it's going to be D2750. I think I had A, B, and C already. So A and B already, so we're just going to add C. And the user code, this is a shortcut code. If you want to add this, you can. Some offices use that, some don't. Entirely up to you. This obviously isn't a recallable code. You're not going to ask the patient to come back every 6 months and have this done again. The procedure type is dental, of course, not medical. The procedure time. Now, some offices find this useful to use if you have a procedure and you know that every time you do this procedure, you're going to use 60 minutes or 90 minutes. You can go ahead and make that part of the process right here. And that way, when the front desk is scheduling, it's going to require them to put this procedure in the right time period. The scheduler production type, you can choose that here. Every office has their own unique scheduler production type set up. And the time pattern, sorry I skipped that, you can set this up if, for instance, you know you're going to have the assistant in for the first 10 or 20 minutes, and then the doctor's going to be in, and then the assistant's going to finish it out. Then you can go ahead and set that time pattern up right there. Now the insurance category, this one is going to be Restorative Crowns. You can set up the insurance limitations category. The insurance billing order. We're going to bill this to dental insurance. The chart category. We're going to chart this as a crown. The tooth area. Now, if this was the posterior composite, obviously you would be choosing a surface rather than the crown of the tooth. And we are going to make our choice here. We're going to draw the chart as a crown. Next, we're going to go over to the default notes macros. This is a great feature as well. Another one that I think offices would be really happy with if they made use of this. You can go ahead and choose right here that when you do this particular service, this particular procedure code, it's going to add this note to the patient progress notes. And if you check this box here, it's going to go ahead and show you as well that you get that description, that code and description when you are generating the note. The procedure code is active and it's dentist limited, meaning only the dentist is the only provider that can post this code. Now, taxable, obviously, there are some procedures that you may enter into your procedure code setup that are taxable, sales tax. This one, you can go ahead and make it require a lab. It's not an ortho procedure, but if it were, you check that box. We have the visit code, ledger code, and AR code already entered. Now, this one, some folks might want to check post-op code, meaning you need to follow up with the patient. Now, this definitely requires a tooth number. And we're going to go ahead and we're not going to require a quadrant or a surface. It does not apply. Down here, you choose which teeth you want to be able to apply it to. Obviously, you can choose primary, permanent, or both. And this right here, lock default provider. This would be a situation where if you have only one provider that does this procedure, then every time this procedure is posted, that preferred provider is that default provider is going to get the credit for that. Now over here, materials. You can choose your materials and apply that as the default. So now you've gone through your entire checklist of your procedure code setup. You've double checked to make sure you have everything in there just the way you want, and save. So now we know we can use this as an alternate benefit code. So what do you do next? How does the plan know to use a different fee for that code? That's where you go to your fee schedule setup. So over here on my fee schedules, I'm using the AMB PPO assigned to carrier fee schedule. And we're going to edit that. And let's scroll down and take a look at a few things. I know you've probably noticed this before. When you're in your fee schedules, you have the AMB code over here. Important thing to remember, it says AMB code, not AMB fee. So when you are entering the code that you want to associate that alternate code with, this is where you'll put it. For instance, D2391A, the resin composite one surface posterior. We have associated D2140 with it, the amalgam one surface. So we're telling the computer, we're telling the program that anytime you treatment plan D2391A, you're going to actually be looking at D2140 for the fee. That way, when you enter that, everything is going to come up accurately. So let's go ahead and find that code that we just entered. Yep, you can see right here, I just typed in Crown High Noble. Makes it a little bit different. I want to enter that fee. And over here, I'm going to make sure that I enter the code that I want associated with it. And this is entirely up to you. Whatever your insurance company has told you they'll pay for, that's the code that you would put here. For instance, some plans I know will pay for one surface posterior composites, but they won't pay for two or more. So obviously, you would need to enter an alternate code for the one surface posterior. You just enter that for the two surface posterior. So don't forget to save. Always important to remember to hit that save button.
And hey, Linda, I wanted to just let everybody know, since we probably know internally, that the fee schedule that you're just kind of messing around with, playing around with, optimizing, tweaking, would otherwise be Aetna, right? MetLife, you know, Delta Dental. So folks, don't get kind of hung up on the fact that we called it AMB. You know, we're just, you know, that's just a test fee schedule name, but for all intents and purposes, this would be your Delta Dental Premier, yada, yada, yada. Go for it, Linda. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out, Kathleen. I was just talking to someone recently about this. These names, they're what you make them. You can name them fee schedule 1, 2, and 3. It's up to you. Whatever works and applies for your office and your carriers, that's what you name the fee schedule. Now, next we're going to take a look we're going to go back.
I'm sorry, Linda, I'm going to make one more. So if this is a fee schedule that you participate with, obviously, because it's kind of what we're talking about, right, that also note, and we didn't even mention this, Linda, and I just thought of it too, that you'll also have to update your UCR fee schedule if that's what you print on your claim for that code, okay? So anyway, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate the reminders because, like Kathleen says, sometimes when we're doing these things, we're just, we know what's in our head, right? But you don't know what's in our head. So you'll want to make sure that you update any fee schedule that applies to the patient, to the office, with those correct fees. Now, we're looking back here at Debbie Downer, and she's got her Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and it downgrades for posterior composites and the posterior crowns. So how do we know that? How does someone at your front desk know that when they just pull this up? We're going to take a look here and look at the notes under the benefits. This is where I think a great place is for you to add all of that information. And you can make it so, again, whatever format works best for your office. In this case, I've started this note, downgrades on posterior composites and posterior porcelain crowns, use AMB codes for treatment planning. And then I've just decided, because sometimes you have brand new front desk people, they might not even be 100% familiar with all of your CDT codes. This is just something that you could do to make it a little bit easier for them. When you're using D2391, that's the same as D2391A. It's the alternate code. So you can put that note here and save it, and that way when they are looking at the information from wherever they are in the patient screen, and if you wanted to click on this one, same information shows up. The front desk member, the clinical staff, whoever is responsible for entering the information, talking to the patient about their financial responsibility. This is where you can double check before you tell them what to expect and what you're going to be treatment planning. So one more thing that you can do, once you find out the patient has a downgraded plan, you could go ahead and add a flash alert just to make sure that everyone is aware of the fact that the patient has a downgrade. Plan downgrades, check benefit notes in insurance setup. And that way, there's no surprises, because nobody likes surprises when they are treatment planning a patient or checking that patient out, and then you discover the treatment's done, procedures are posted, and now we're learning that there's a downgrade and potentially a really big difference in that fee. So we like to avoid those types of surprises. So something you might be wondering about, what happens when you post this code to the patient's ledger? What's it look like? Because you don't want any trouble with the insurance company. So let's go ahead and post this alternate code and create that claim. So you see here, it says D2750A. Let's go ahead and print that. We're going to imagine that we're printing this claim for whatever reason, rather than using our utilities and batch claims processing. we're just going to go ahead and get this one printed and confirm what we're seeing on the claim. My apologies. I was having some connection issues earlier.
Linda, what is this going to look like on the claim when this prints out?
It's actually going to, when the claim prints out, and it's already created right there, it's going to not have that A on the claim. So the insurance company is not going to be asking you, what's this mean? They're not going to deny it right away because they don't recognize the code. It's just going to have the D2750 on there, or D2391. Whatever the code is that it's associated to, that's what it's going to print on the claim, so that you don't have any issues down the road with that. Now, something to keep in mind, and I'm sure that all of you front desk team members do remember, is that when you make a change to the plan, to the insurance plan, it's going to affect everyone. So if you are making a note on here because you found out that Debbie's plan downgrades, then anyone who has this plan, this group number 773, they're going to have the same note that it downgrades. So just keep that in mind when you are setting up this information, that whatever you do to one person on that plan, it's going to affect everyone. Same as if you change the required, the coverage table, if you change that on one, it affects everyone. Now, something that you can do, and keep this in mind for future use, if you want to set up those effective dates and term dates. If your patient comes in, you treatment plan them, they see that everything's downgraded, and they want to maybe come back in January when they've got their new plan that doesn't downgrade, you can go ahead and enter the effective date and term date on this plan, so that you know when you're checking the schedule in January that you need to get the new benefits for the patient and reestimate that treatment plan and have the new information there, so that there are no mishaps when the patient comes in.
So Linda, on that plan benefit screen there, that's for everybody who is attached to that particular plan?
Yes.
Where you were showing us, so if an entire group changes?
Yeah. When you make those changes in that insurance plan, it does affect everyone that's on that plan. It's not just for Debbie. It's for everyone. Now,
and how about for a specific individual too, for this particular patient?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite following the question. If you have something that's...
Sure, for this particular patient, when you click on primary there and you're looking at their coverage,
right.
You can also add in effective dates and term dates too.
Right.
Just specific for this patient.
Okay. So you'll want to make sure that you note this information right here. The annual date, this one rolls over in January. So that's going to affect this patient right here. And you can see the subscriber information down here at the bottom of the screen. this is where you would enter all of that in. One thing that I remembered, Shelley, as you were asking about that, is that we set up the code to post the post with the note macro. And I'd like to show everybody how that looks. If I am remembering correctly, let's go back to that fee schedule setup, pardon me, procedure code setup, and just double check that it is set up with that note macro, default note macros. There we go. That is the right one. You can see that. I don't know if you noticed right here, default note macros. It tells you right there what the details are of that note.
Hey, and Linda, while we're talking about a clinical, yeah, let's give clinical some love, right? 17% of them are clinical folks. Let's show them the same treatment plan entry, but in the wacky, wonderful world of the restorative chart, so they can see it that way. Not everybody's going to use TX for treatment plan, although, of course, we recommend that you become, experts in both ways of entering a treatment plan, the non-graphical, as I call it, the TX, versus the graphical, the analog versus the graphical. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me. So if you are treatment planning from the restorative chart, you would go ahead and, just like you would with the standard code, like you do for most of your patients, you would click on that tooth, and then you would choose the code over here, and there's the alternate, and add the procedure, and there it is. And then when you go back here to the TX, you can see it's right there. So I want to show you real quickly another great feature that I think the clinical team would love, because it just saves you an extra step. And you've got so much to do every day, so much to do with each patient. If you can save just a little bit of time, that's an awesome, awesome thing. So we're going to go ahead and post this one to the ledger. And then you're going to go up to the patient progress notes. And let's see, when we open that progress note, you see, because we've added that already here, our note, it's already entered here for us. It auto-generated, and it just prompted us to enter the information, the tooth information. And then you don't have to go back in and choose it from the macro over here on the side or type it all in yourself. It's just right there, done for you. It adds the procedure code that was done and the detailed information, and then you can go ahead and save it, and ta-da. I thought that was a great option as well, because anything that you can do that saves a couple of minutes for you is a fantastic feature in my book. Now, something to keep in mind, we had a lot of administrators, so this isn't going to apply to most of you, I think, but just keep in mind that when you're going through that setup, if you get to this screen and you see these boxes are grayed out, or really anywhere in Denticon, if you get to a grayed out screen, that just means that you don't have the security right to add that feature or to complete that task. So you'll need to talk to an administrator, whoever is in charge of assigning security rights, and either ask them to set this up or explain the benefits to them, why you want to have it set up, or maybe they will give you the option to do that yourself. So I hope that all of you can see the beauty and the benefits of the AMB, the alternative minimum benefit. I hope that you can use it on your patients on a daily basis to create just a little bit easier flow for you in your day and have a better customer patient experience for everyone.
Agreed, Linda. Exactly. Let's all pat ourselves on the back here at Denticon and say, yes, we appreciate our AMB feature. It's something that we really don't get to train that much unless somebody that we are training brings it up, which is great because it is a great feature. And as we mentioned, just in terms of the benefits, it helps you to collect sooner than later, which helps you to decrease, balance billing later on. Nobody likes those kinds of surprises. It in of itself is a cost saver since you're not balance billing. You're saving money on paper and toner and statement costs. You're increasing your collection, which is then better cash flow for you as well. So Sandy Crock has a little bit of a left curve. I was about to answer her in a written format. I will hit enter in a second, but let's see how we would handle this question. She says, and hi Sandy, some companies such as Delta are now not doing just a downgrade for resins, but are stating the composites are paid at 40% instead of 80%, like the rest of the restorative code. In this case, this is called stump the band. In this case, the A code, she says, does not work. I don't necessarily agree, Sandy, but we'll talk about that. So how would you get the fee schedule to reflect the 40% coverage? So I have my theory of how that would work. Maybe let me throw my theory out here versus not. Let's see. Boom. Let me hit enter there for you, Sandy. So my theory, and tell me if you guys would agree, you're still going to, right? Because if Delta group number 1 versus Delta group number 2, just like with the downgrade that we're talking about. But what you're saying, Sandy, is Delta group number 1 pays at 80%, and Delta group number 2 pays at 40%. Now, I don't know if you meant 40% of the amalgam fee, or 40% of the D2391 fee. But either way, you're not changing the fee schedule. You're creating a new category called, and right where you are, so good for you, Linda, exactly, the category or the coverage table, a new one called, I would think, downgraded restorations. So you would still have a D2391A. You would then put that code in the category called downgraded restorations, the category you're going to create called restorative downgraded restorations, and then you're going to put 40% there for the plan. And so it's up to you to say 40% of the D2140, or no, just plain old 40% of the D2391, and then you would still put that fee of the D2391 into the D2391A, and then the software would know, oh, if you use the A code, calculate at 40% of D2391, or if you say, no, this group number doesn't downgrade, then you're just going to use D2391, and it'll calculate at 80. If it's, like you said, not just the downgrade, so you might say, no, Kath, it calculates 40% of the D2140, then you do exactly what Linda showed you, but you create that new category. Shelley, Linda, what do you think? How did we do there? And of course, Sandy, regarding that they are now covering at a different percentage. So I would think we're not changing fee schedules. The fees are the same. It's just the percentage, the 40% versus 80%. And that's all handled right there at the coverage table. Go for it.
Right. Let's show her where to find that at. Setup and miscellaneous setups. Linda, you can drive for us.
Vroom, vroom. So let's show where we set up exactly those categories.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the default insurance plan coverage categories?
Right here. So this is where you would edit or add those categories. So you would add the information down here or edit this. One thing to note that, again, you've got to have the user right to make these changes in your setup. But you would add the coverage code and coverage key. Let's see.
And that number there is just a defaulted one. You can still change it when you're adding in. We're just going to use like a most common number.
Right. So here we go. It's downgrade. So we've added that downgrade with the default coverage % there.
Now we also see that at the bottom of the list because we just used a coverage key for number 15. Mm-hmm. So if we wanted that to go further up on the list, we could have used, let's say, 303C.
Yeah, whatever works for your office. This is again one of those things. One of the awesome things I think about Denticon. I think a lot of things are awesome about Denticon, clearly, but I think it's great that you have so much freedom to personalize it. What's going to work for your office? So you have that information here, and we're going to go back. We'll go to this page, the coverage categories, and we've got the downgrade right here. So we can edit that.
So let's also, when you're done with that, let's take a look at the procedure code too, to see the procedure codes if they have now that insurance limitation category added.
And I think that was the posterior composite she was saying, that they are no longer paying as much.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go to let's see, where was that?
Always at the bottom, Linda. It's in the order, that we put it in. So that's kind of interesting. Or maybe not.
Yeah. It's in the insurance category down there.
There we go.
Oh yeah, the one below it, Linda.
Yep.
There you go. Yep.
So we've got that set up that it's going to pay the 40%. And
while you're doing that, let's see what Sandy thinks. So Sandy, if you want to, write back and see how it works. So go ahead, Linda, and let's make sure Sandy, she's probably floored. She's like, what? This is awesome.
I hope so. I hope so. And you can see here, just if you're scrolling through the screen, through the procedure codes, the insurance category is downgrade. Now, obviously, that was just me taking a shortcut and typing that, but you could add downgrade posterior, downgrade crowns, whatever you needed to make that to work for your office. You could add that to your setup. So how's that work for you, Sandy?
Yeah, let's put it in as a treatment plan, Linda. Let's just see what it does.
Sure.
It should just calculate 40% of.
Right.
Sandy did reply here. So Sandy wants to know, so if you change the insurance category for the code, wouldn't that affect all the posterior resins? Now, Sandy, that is that alternative code
Right.
That's where the insurance category was added to. So your codes that are just your 2391, 2392, you can leave your general restoration insurance category there. But your ones that you know specifically are going to be downgraded at a lesser percentage, as well as you indicated on your sample here, you could add that insurance category that you know is considered downgrade with the percentage for that specific plan.
Right.
Hopefully that answered that for you.
Let's do this.
You maxed out your patient there, Linda.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I had to switch it up.
Yeah.
So
anyway, while you're doing that, if we have any other questions, that would be awesome, Sauce. We'd be more than happy to stump the band, name that tune.
We can see here, because I didn't re-estimate any of this yet, I just added the new code, 2391A. You can see the difference in the estimated patient portion on the first one and the last one that I added. Exactly. That the patient is responsible for more because we've automatically made that procedure amount 40% coverage.
Exactly. So 40% of $87, the amalgam fee, is now the double downgrade. It downgraded the coverage to the amalgam, and it downgraded the coverage to 40%. And so that's why you have to go that dual method, that you still are going to use the A, so you can separate out, Sandy, the plans that do cover it regularly and the plans that don't cover it regularly. And so that's the code. And then you say, yeah, and on top of that, the percentage is different. So now you got to tease out that code out of the coverage category. It can't be sitting in restorative because it's going to do 80%. So that's why we created the other coverage category called, downgraded restorations or whatever. And you can have only one code assigned to that, 5 codes assigned to that if it's all of the resin composites. And that's kind of how you would do that. So let's say, Hannah, hey, Hannah. Can you hit re-estimate so that we can see? It'll adjust that burst D2391A, sure. And so in terms of re-estimate, right, when we do a training, what do we say? Re-estimate, re-estimate, re-estimate. And so the theory is that we ask you to re-estimate, so what you see is what you get. Right?
There you go.
Thank you, Linda. This could have been entered 20 years ago. So you should always re-estimate. Now, if you don't, when you click and post, it would have re-estimated anyway for you. So that's why I call it WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You should re-estimate every time you come to the treatment plan. So what you see on the screen is going to be what you get on the ledger. If you don't, when you click and post, you're going to get what you should have gotten. But you might be like, whoa, hold on, what happened? So thank you, Vanna White. You look beautiful there, Linda. Demoing that for me. Awesome sauce. Yep. And to downgrade procedure code, could that be used for a provider who is out of network with different percentage coverage? I love it, right? Exactly. And then Sandy, I'll submit a ticket because I'm still confused. The first part still did help. Okay, no problem. Yep. It's tricky, but it isn't. And play around with it, Sandy. Try it out and see if it works based on what you explain. Maybe what you said is different than really what it ends up doing. I can appreciate that. So Kathleen, to downgrade procedure code, could that be used for a provider who is out of network with different percentage coverage? You could, right? And we'd have to think about that Stump the Band song because, gosh, that means you'd have to create literally every different CDT code. Right? With the OAP. This is the out of network. I think in the out of network, it might just be better to create a different plan, right? The out of network plan where it has the percentages, and then you would sign the patient to that or the doctor to, I'd have to ask VBS exactly how they do out of network. We do have out of network designation. Ladies, my beautiful brains, out of network, a doctor who is out of network Do we create a different plan called the out-of-network Delta Dental?
Well, for me, my brain immediately goes to, was that the only doctor in the office the patient is seeing? And if not, that could be a little tricky. You could just assign a fee schedule to the doctor.
Exactly.
Is what I would recommend.
But the percentage is different, she's saying. So the fee
True.
is still $100, she's saying, now, which I question. Is it still 100 if he's out of network, or is it 120? All right. So we should probably talk a little bit more about that, counseling, and make sure we get all of the details.
Yeah.
And we can lean on our beautiful VBS ladies as well, who've dealt with every derivative of every plan, so to speak. And so then she says, it would be a specialist. I see.
Oh, okay.
So the specialists usually get to charge higher fees, and what's kind of cool is the specialist only charges higher fees for certain procedures. So the fee schedule would only necessarily be populated with 5 codes. And I always use the example of the endodontist. If he were to do a pro fee, and I'm being silly, but for a good example, if the endodontist were to do a pro fee because he wants to keep his pro fee skills going, he's not going to get paid any more than the hygienist would. But as an endodontist, he would get a higher fee for his 33, 10, 20, 30. So your fee schedule would only need to be populated with those 3 codes, only the codes that the provider gets a higher reimbursement for. So you would sign that fee schedule to him. That fee schedule would only have 3 codes, because everything else that the provider would perform would get covered at the regular old dollar amount. And then in terms of percentages, that's a different story. So we really should kind of delve into that. But yes, Linda, thank you. We're about to wrap up here with 3 minutes to go. We covered a lot of stuff. So thank you so much for always pointing us in the direction of the good old help portal. So everything that we've been talking about today, believe it or not, is already here. It's in the help portal. So you can take a look, Sandy, here, the help portal. Look up AMB, and I'll let you follow that through for me, Linda.
Sure. I just went in and I typed AMB and hit enter. And here are all the codes, or pardon me, the articles that you'll need to set that up. Another code, or pardon me, article you might want to look up is the procedure code setup, just so you can review what all of those areas of the procedure code are for, in case you have any questions while you're setting those up. Gives you more information on the time pattern, how to designate that. I think a lot of times when we are initially setting up procedure codes, setting up the office, sometimes we're just trying to get through the day and so we can start seeing patients as quickly as possible, and then we don't go back and tweak things to make our lives a lot easier and more convenient. So maybe as you're reviewing some of this, you'll find some features that can help make your day-to-day life easier along the way.
Beautiful. Well, anyway, thank you, everybody at the top of the hour. Great job, Linda. Thank you for showing us your favorite feature. And thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, right? An hour, everybody's busy. So thank you for joining us on our journey together of going through all aspects of Denticon and becoming a Denticon expert super user. I hope you can make all our future webinars, which we'll be hosting an hour pretty much the last Wednesday of every month. So thank you for coming, and keep your eyes open for your next webinar invitation. Have an excellent day, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Linda. Great job. Sorry about my phone there, huh?
No worries. Glad to be here.
Yep. All righty. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.